What it is, everybody. Sorry I'm late. My goodness, I was dealing with technical difficulties. I just finally got my camera to work. I wasn't going to be able to appear. I didn't want to not appear. Everybody's waiting to see me. So, hey, what's going on? We have news today. Going to talk about the latest. Going to talk about the probe. Secretary Jerome Powell is being probed. Carly says, I like your face, but we could just do a mic 2 as a last resort. Yeah, I was afraid of doing that. Would you really be able to deal with it? I'd show you what it looks like. It would look like this. There, it would just look like that. If I had to do it without the camera, you would have to see my AI generated face. But here we are, looking good. Back in the other studio. I was out of town for a little while. So anyway, we got Jerome Powell being probed by Donald Trump. Donald Trump turning into some kind of a socialist, basically. Also, going to talk about that. He has a lot of plans, a lot of crazy plans in 2026. So I am going to update you on the latest. His latest plan is to cap credit card rates, which people might be excited about. I think it's basically Elizabeth Warren's plan. So, or it's basically a Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, government interference in economics, etc. type of plan. So I'll show you that. He truthed about it, and he said that companies have to obey. They must obey. So you're probably hoping for 10% credit card rates. I am going to tell you what's wrong with that. I'm just going to tell you why that's not. I don't think it's going to happen. So we have that. We have him attacking the Federal Reserve. People are pissed off about that. We have updates on the ICE situation. That's still in the news. Updates on the ICE situation. Many people who were reliably on the right in most cases, several, I should say, rather than many, several are breaking away from the Trump administration on this particular thing after seeing what ICE is doing, sort of similar to what's happening to me as well. So it's interesting, I guess, through natural selection. People don't disagree with me as much as I thought they would. I've been apologizing for giving my opinion, which I apologize for doing. It's terrible to do that on the ICE shooting. So, but we had some people like Dan Bilzerian and some other people who claimed that they used to be MAGA or voted for Trump many times, who are breaking up with Trump over this latest thing. So I haven't seen polling on it, but I wouldn't be surprised to see that some Republicans are not necessarily on board with the way ICE is currently operating. And certainly many independents may not be okay with the way ICE is currently operating. So I'm going to show you some more of those videos of ICE misbehaving. I'm going to show you the opinion from Tim Dillon, who is, I don't know if he's really right-wing. He is kind of, though. So I'll show you his opinion. Steve Kerr, I don't have his opinion, but I could show it to you if I want to. He's the coach of the Minnesota basketball team. He came out and said it was murder. So willing to debate people on it, willing to take phone calls on it if people really want to call in and discuss it. The argument is probably overwrought now at this point. It's probably been done. But we are still talking about ICE. ICE is deploying even more soldiers into Minnesota, kind of taking over Minneapolis, basically. More ICE and DHS agents on the ground than there are local police right now in Minnesota. So it's kind of wild. People claim it's kind of like an invasion. So you decide. So anyway, we'll talk about it. We can deal with your comments in the chat and what you are thinking about. I'm not calling them Nazis, but I can see why people do. Based on some of the things I've seen. And I'll play you some of the latest from the administration and from Trump talking about it. And we'll give you our opinions on that still, even though the title is about debt war. I think the debt war, Trump's 10% rate cap versus the DOJ's probe of Jerome Powell. So Donald Trump is interfering with the Fed, which a lot of people aren't happy about, including some Republicans. And he's interfering with credit card rates, which probably banks are not happy about, but actually Americans might not be happy about when they see the results from it. So I'm going to talk to you about what the results would be if we really capped credit card rates at 10%. It sounds great, especially if you're carrying a balance. But in reality, it would probably be disastrous for the people and for the economy, especially people who don't have a 800 credit score. So I'll tell you about that on this show. And I'll play Jerome Powell's response to this unprecedented government overreach or government intrusion into the business of the Fed, which is supposed to be independent, even though we don't like the Fed. And we had bumper stickers that said, "End the Fed." Interfering with them in this way is not good. It's something that banana republics do. So I'll show you that. And that's what previous Fed chairs and financial people are saying. And I think Jim Cramer's upset about it too, if you care what he thinks. So I'll show you all that. Might be, oops, I got to go to my bookmarks. Might be a little bit of a shorter show today, depending on how we get through everything. We'll get you ready so you can watch the playoffs if you want. Playoffs have been pretty interesting, and the football, if you guys watch that stuff. They've been, if you think the NFL is rigged, it might be. They certainly made a lot of close games somehow. So anyway, so you can tune into that after this show. And I don't know what else is going on. So we'll check in with the chat. We will play you some entertaining videos and enlightening videos. And it'll be it'll be one of those shows. So get ready for it. I will play the intro and then we will strap in. Okay. Thanks for joining me for the show. Always good for you to see you. Glad I was able to make it. We'll see if people tune in. And let's get going with it. All right. Thanks for coming. Okay. Cue musical intro. Boy, that's brilliant. I do think some things in the world are real. Like you guys. You guys are real. Most of you. Most of my listeners, I think, are not just in my head. I think I have the metrics to prove it. You've taken a leap of faith today. What is that sound? And I apologize if you take offense. I'm a little offended myself. Welcome to our show. Welcome to the future. What it is, joining you live from sunny California. It's a beautiful day today. I'm your host, Nathan Stoltman. And I bring you the news, the real news.
But now we're buying oil from Venezuela, so we're making a dictator very rich. Can you believe this? Nobody can believe it. You know where the oil, their oil is garbage. It's horrible. The worst you can get. Tar. It's like tar. And to refine it, you need special plants. And Venezuelan oil, which is a heavy oil, very good oil, great oil. It's fantastic for certain things like asphalt roads. Best there is in the world for asphalt roads and other things.
There you go.
But now we're buying oil from
terrible oil. No, it's good oil. Really good oil. We can use it to pave our roads. I think you can refine it down to gasoline, but it is junk oil. So we've been talking about that on this show. I have some more updates. We have some more updates on Greenland. We can talk about what's going on in Iran. We are either close to attacking them or not. So it's not Diddy oil, although I've seen the memes. Different kind of oil. So thanks for joining me for the show. If you want to support this type of broadcast, you can always do so by going to buymeacoffee.com/lifttheveil and using that platform to leave tips, which come in the form of virtual coffees. and you can leave a note there. And I read those at the end of every show, and you can leave those tips anytime, even after the show is over. It doesn't have to be during the show, but if you do it during the show, it's more fun. You can also go to our t-shirt shop, which is at truthclothing.io. I was just at my t-shirt shop looking at the inventory. So buy some shirts. Definitely buy some cryptocurrency shirts if you can. We got our propaganda baseball jersey, Doshi tees. We still have a few. Question everything. We have in several colors still. We have our Bitcoin saves, crypto future, hodl shirts are $5. T-shirt and baseball. You can get your Last American Vagabond shirts and question everything in several female styles, and a Lift the Veil slouchy for $5 in female styles too. So get your shirts, super high quality t-shirts, screen printed, last a long time. They're very high quality shirts on liquidation sale, going out of business sale. So take advantage of it while we still have your size in stock. And you will be very happy with your purchase, just like everybody who always says so when they're in the chat. So check those out if you can. All right. So let's talk about different news. We were gone for the weekend. I was watching a little football over the weekend. So we were gone for the weekend. What did we miss? Well, we missed debate about the ICE shooting. We missed protests in Iran, which have apparently wound down a little bit, but we are threatening to attack them. We just threatened tariffs on anybody who does business with Iran. It's a little bit dicey whether we get involved there because the people don't necessarily like us. So if we start bombing them, it might make them like the regime more. Apparently, there are protesters in the streets of Iran protesting in favor of the current regime, the Islamic theocracy, while there were a bunch of people protesting against it. They're talking about installing a monarchy, having the Shah's son come in, which is what Israel favors. So we don't want democracy still. It might be what we favor too. I'm not sure. But that's what people were protesting in the streets for. I could check my bet. Let's see. I check my bet, see how it's going. I bet that Khomeini would be removed. Yeah, it's still up even more. It's up to 64%. So when I bet on it, it was around 50%. So it's still a 64% chance on Kalshi that Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, is going to be out before the end of the year. So, and Trump is talking about bombing, and apparently a lot of military assets are in place and we could bomb them. So, all right. So let's get to the news. I'll put your comments up on stage. Let's see. What am I doing wrong here? No, I'm not doing that wrong. Where? What? That's weird. It usually has a thing that says show on stage. Banner, media assets, comments. Huh. Weird. I guess I can't show your comments on stage because it's not coming up. Normally it does. Weird. Okay. Well, no big deal. Guess we can't see your comments today. I can still see your comments and I'll still respond if you have questions for the show. So thanks again. Let's talk about the Department of Labor is promoting QAnon recently. So we saw that the other day when they said, trust the plan, trust Trump. They just put up another QAnon meme today. This one, Patriots in control. So we have the schizo boomers being roped back in. Patriots in control. All right. Good news. Good news. So that's it. And then, so Trump opened a probe into the Federal Reserve. He has been at war with Jerome Powell. As we know, he's been pressuring Jerome Powell all year to get lower interest rates than Jerome Powell is doing. Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve are supposed to be independent. They are not supposed to do the bidding of Donald Trump. Countries where where the central bank does the bidding of the leader, things go badly, like in Turkey. In Turkey, Erdogan took control of their central bank and they had horrendous inflation. And what Trump is proposing, because he's into real estate, he likes low interest rates. He's proposing that we lower rates to the lowest in the world because we have the best economy in the world. So interest rates being higher takes money out of the economy because people have to pay more interest on their debt. It slows down businesses who use debt to build their businesses. And we had an inflation problem, so interest rates went up. They're not that high. I think they're like 4% right now. Mortgage rates are lower than they have been. They're down below 6%, but they're not that high. And we still have inflation as per the last reading. Now, inflation seems to be dropping quickly on its own because we're probably in a recession. That's why gas is so cheap. And that's why a lot of other things are cheap now, especially gas. Probably because we're in a recession and because there's a lot of oil on the market. So they might drop rates because inflation might go down. And if we have a recession or a depression, they'll drop rates to zero and they'll print money to infinity. I don't like the Federal Reserve controlling money policy because it controls kind of everything. But as long as we're going to have one, it's very important that they don't just do the bidding of the president, because the president will just lower rates because that's will make growth go up. But it can also drive up inflation a lot. So anyway, here's Jerome Powell talking about the unprecedented federal probe into the Federal Reserve against him. So I'll play. And it's regarding how much money he spent on refurbishment of some Fed building, which is a lot of money. And they're claiming he lied about it, apparently. So, and it's the DOJ. Trump says he doesn't know about it, or Trump was asked about it, so he didn't know about it. So, question whether you believe that or not.
Good evening. On Friday, the Department of Justice served the Federal Reserve with grand jury subpoenas, threatening a criminal indictment related to my testimony before the Senate Banking Committee last June. That testimony concerned in part a multi-year project to renovate historic Federal Reserve office buildings. I have deep respect for the rule of law and for accountability in our democracy. No one, certainly not the chair of the Federal Reserve, is above the law. But this unprecedented action should be seen in the broader context of the administration's threats and ongoing pressure. This new threat is not about my testimony last June or about the renovation of the Federal Reserve buildings. It is not about Congress's oversight role. The Fed, through testimony and other public disclosures, made every effort to keep Congress informed about the renovation project. Those are pretexts. The threat of criminal charges is a consequence of the Federal Reserve setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what will serve the public, rather than following the preferences of the president. This is about whether the Fed will be able to continue to set interest rates based on evidence and economic conditions, or whether instead monetary policy will be directed by political pressure or intimidation. I have served at the Federal Reserve under 4 administrations, Republicans and Democrats alike. In every case, I have carried out my duties without political fear or favor, focused solely on our mandate of price stability and maximum employment. Public service sometimes requires standing firm in the face of threats. I will continue to do the job the Senate confirmed me to do, with integrity and a commitment to serving the American people. Thank you.
All right. I see people in the chat disagreeing with me. Two people gave the same comment, which says a recession does not mean things get cheaper. It doesn't necessarily, but because prices are based on supply and demand, if demand goes down, then prices go down. So what I'm proposing is that the price of gasoline is cheaper because people are using less because we might be in a recession. If demand goes down, prices go down. So that's what's maybe happening in housing, or is going to happen this year in housing, and eventually could happen with the stock market as well. It doesn't necessarily mean things get cheaper, especially since we're in the habit of printing tons of money when we have anything appearing like a recession. That's what we did during COVID. During COVID, at first, everything crashed. And then we printed the biggest amount of money of all time. And because of that, the economy, if you want to call it that, boomed. People bought a bunch of stuff. Prices went up because of central bank policy. So it's possible to have something called stagflation, where you're in a recession and things keep going up in price. That's possible. If you print more money, prices typically go up because, especially if you give it away. But oh, you meant not me. You actually said it backwards. Thank you, not me, for clarifying. You said it that it does mean things get cheaper. Yes. Okay. Imagine that. Said a recession does not mean things get cheaper. It doesn't 100% of the time. But if demand goes down, then prices go down. So we have like a lot of things are cheap now, like cheese. I showed some charts for things that are going down in price, commodities and stuff. But we have a lot of stuff going up in price too, like precious metals. And somebody told me to give the price every day for precious metals and Bitcoin. So gold and silver were up today. That it probably as a result of safe haven demand, but also because of people wanting assets that don't have counterparty risk, I believe, because I think people are concerned about a debt crisis. So this is called the debt war. I believe people are concerned about a debt crisis and want to have assets that are with no counterparty risk-free assets like that you don't have to rely on somebody else to pay it back. Better than government bonds, for example, if you think the government might go broke, etc. So I believe that's why people are showing a preference for gold. Silver, maybe a little bit. Silver is used a lot in industrial sources. So silver was way up again today, all-time high again today. Gold, all-time high today. Gold is around $4,600, very close to it. Reading right now, it's $45.93. Silver was up to 85 today. Now, currently, it's at 84.12. Spot. If you want to get physical silver, it's going to cost you over $90 now for a real ounce of good silver in America. And then Bitcoin, we'll give you the price. Still hanging around 90,000. It's 91.2 right now, Bitcoin. So those things, safe haven, gold, but other commodities are up too. Copper and everything else could be the result of inflation. It probably is the result of inflation, but also the result of the demand for things to make AI, I guess. Copper for electricity. We're going to need a lot of copper for electricity. And we use silver because it's the best conductor on Earth for technological products, specifically solar panels, which is also because of electricity. Oh, play it again. It's like he started on his own. Some people said hostage video. $2.5 billion for a renovation. So beat the house. Sports says recession is defined as 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth. The last quarter was booming, 4.6%, not even close to negative. That's true. The GDP is up. So when I say we're in a recession, it's not technically, but there are reasons to believe that we're in like a stealth recession because the labor share of income is the lowest it's ever been in history. People are not making more money. Inflation has gone up on everything. People have less disposable money, people who aren't rich. So businesses, though, are doing great, but that's because they're making all the money. Businesses are, not people. Labor share of income is down to the lowest in history. It kind of crashed, actually, this last year. So when I say we're in a recession, it's just because I'm not using the classical definition. We are not in a recession, and we might not be anytime soon, but obviously some demand is down. So, but we're technically not in a recession. But I don't think people care about GDP growth when they're not getting paid. So the former Fed chair's Treasury secretaries put out a statement defending Jerome Powell after the Justice Department opened a criminal probe. I'll read that. The Federal Reserve's independence and the public's perception of that independence are critical for economic performance, including achieving the goals Congress has set for the Federal Reserve of stable prices, maximum employment, and moderate long-term interest rates. The reported criminal inquiry into Federal Reserve Chair Jay Powell is an unprecedented attempt to use prosecutorial attacks to undermine that independence. This is how monetary policy is made in emerging markets with weak institutions, with highly negative consequences for inflation and the functioning of their economies more broadly. It has no place in the United States, whose greatest strength is the rule of law, which is at the foundation of our economic success. And I will say the stock market was down today, I believe. Open up a new tab. Major indices. The stock market, well, it's already open for tomorrow. So I'm getting, no, it looks like it actually eked out a gain. It was down at first. Futures were down overnight. Generally, businesses and stuff won't like it if we're attacking the Fed. They want the Fed to be independent. That's all. So, but stocks weren't that badly affected today. Okay. Senator Tom Tillis, who is retiring, who's a Republican, was one of at least 3 Republicans who came out against this. He said if there was any remaining doubt whether advisors within the Trump administration are actively pushing to end the independence of the Federal Reserve, there should now be none. It is now the independence and credibility of the Department of Justice that are in question. I will oppose the confirmation of any nominee for the Fed, including the Fed chair vacancy, until this legal matter is fully resolved. And he's on the finance committee where his vote can actually stop any nomination from getting out of committee. So it's actually really important. He's retiring, but he's not the only Republican that came out against it. There were at least 2 more. Murkowski, I think that's her name. She came out against it. I know she's like one of the moderates, but she came out against it. And I think secretly, probably a lot of Republicans are against it. And actually, this is what a Republican senator said about it, which is just really amusing. When he was asked about the criminal investigation into Jerome Powell, listen to this. This is crazy.
Did Jay Powell break the law? Is there really a reason for an investigation? Because, you know, a lot of people are looking at this and saying, well, wait a second. We know President Trump does not like Jay Powell, and we know that he's calling him stupid and that he hasn't cut rates fast enough. So is this political, or did Jay Powell break the law and mislead or lie to the Senate Banking Committee? And you say?
Well, Maria, we'll let the system play through here. I think there's other issues that we should be focused on. I think this is the president throwing out one more, maybe he's even almost trolling here as well. We got bigger issues to go after than this one, though.
So he's not interested. See, he doesn't like it. A lot of people are not willing to speak out against Donald Trump, but he's kind of losing people a little bit, just like one little bit at a time. This is another one that Republicans in general aren't going to be that happy about. So that's the news on the Federal Reserve. Tom Tillis says now the credibility of the DOJ is in question. So that's not good if the credibility of the DOJ is in question. So there's some question about whether it was done without Trump's approval, whether it was somebody, who is it? Is it Judge Janine that's in charge? So she might have pursued it without his help. But anyway, I don't know if they're going to bring charges. They say you can indict a ham sandwich, but they haven't been able to indict a lot of the people Trump has gone after. And this one just seems very weak. They say he lied about the renovation costs. That seems like a weird crime to prosecute. So Good. Glad. Thank you for the positive comments. I wish I was able to show comments on stage. Thanks for the positive comments about economics coverage. You can see it's not my most popular show, but it is a topic I enjoy. So thank you for that. Appreciate you guys too. We like to give you guys all the news. So here's the big news about credit cards. I'll read you the Truth Social post. Please be informed that we will no longer let the American public be ripped off by credit card companies that are charging interest rates of 20 to 30% and even more, which festered unimpeded during the sleepy Joe Biden administration. Affordability. I thought affordability was a hoax. He put it in all caps. Effective January 20th, 2026, I, as President of the United States, am calling for a 1-year cap on credit card interest rates of 10%. Coincidentally, the January 20th date will coincide with the 1-year anniversary of the historic and very successful Trump administration. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Okay, 10% credit card rates. Sounds good. Credit card, okay, sounds good. Sounds good. People hate usury and so forth. Credit cards are very competitive. They're loaning money without any competitive with each other to compete for customers. So actually the rates they're charging are probably what they have to charge, probably. These are unsecured loans, meaning that the banks that are offering these loans have no collateral to be able to take from you if you default on your credit cards. And you are allowed to, there's no such thing as debtor's jail, which there used to be in some older societies. You could go to jail for not paying your debt. You can go to jail for not paying your taxes, but you can't go to jail. They can't do anything to you if you stop paying your credit card. The only thing that's going to happen to you is your credit gets screwed up. They can call you. They send you to people that harass you. They might find out where you live. I don't know if they can knock on your door. I'm not sure if that's allowed. They're allowed to just call you and sell you to a collection agency that calls you, and they can send you things in the mail, but they have no legal authority to collect when you default. Because of that, and because of those reasons, credit card interest rates are what they are, basically. And you can complain about them, but they're probably what they have to be for these banks to be profitable. If we were to put in this socialist policy of capping rates at 10%, your credit card would probably get canceled. And then the economy would probably go into recession, is what some people are saying. Some analysis, which I can probably agree with. We have an economy that's built on credit. Most of the money people spent at Christmas was on credit. They would not loan, they just wouldn't give you credit unless I saw somebody say anybody with under a 780 credit score wouldn't get credit. They'd have their credit cards canceled immediately. They would lower your credit limit. They would let you pay off your debt, but they would lower your limit, and they'd cut out all the rewards rich people who pay their bills on time get from poor people paying their high interest rates. So there's lots of chatter about it online. People saying different things. People saying you should cash in your rewards points immediately because those are going to go away, because those are paid for by financially irresponsible people who carry balances on their credit cards. So they wouldn't be able to afford to be in business, most likely, especially at 10%. That's a low rate. That's a low rate. That's the kind of rate you would get on a car loan. In a car, like I said, they can repossess your car at least. That's why you get lower rates on houses. Houses in particular, because usually they go up in value. But cars also. These are things where it's like a title loan, where they can do something to recoup what you spent. While with credit cards, they can't do anything, and people default all the time. So that's why they charge high interest rates. So if that happened, it would be bad for the banks, but it would be bad for people in general. And then they would probably still need loans. they would still need something like credit. So they would go actually, it would get even worse for them because they wouldn't be able to get credit with a credit card, and they'd have to go to loan sharks or more predatory lenders to pay even higher interest rates, or buy now, pay later, which I think can charge extremely high interest rates if you don't pay it off in time. So Jewel says, what happens when the cap comes off? Yeah, after a year, well, they can be back in business. You have to pay higher rates. I don't think it can I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think he can do that. He just says he's going to do things that he can't do all the time. It's insane. He just says he's going to do things that he's not allowed to do, including tariffs, which are about to be struck down probably. And I have news about that. But Trump thinks he's a dictator. He thinks he's king. By the way he speaks and everything, he thinks he can invade Greenland, which he's not allowed to do, legally not allowed to do. He thinks he can strike any country, etc. So anyway, here's what he had to say about it when he was on the plane yesterday. But overall, it could cause a recession because people would suddenly not have money to spend because their credit cards would get canceled. So it's a very dangerous idea, considering the unforeseen consequences. But he doesn't think through stuff, I don't think. So here he is talking about credit card rates.
Well, then they're in violation of the law. Very severe things. No, I want a cap on credit card interest rates because some of them are 28, almost 30%, and that people don't know they're paying 30%. The people out there, they're working, and they have no idea that they're paying 30%. No way. We're putting a 1-year cap at 10%, and that's it. They know it. They've really abused the public. The credit card companies have totally abused it. I'm not going to let it happen.
There you go. He said they'd be breaking the law if they don't do it, but there's no law. There's no law. When he puts out a True Social post, that doesn't make laws. So I don't know, kind of amusing. All right, so that's the news. I think that's most of the news. That's the news in the economy. Next, we're going to get into ICE news. Oh, I have more. Actually, I have more economic news. We'll skip to tariffs and then we'll do ICE in a minute. So regarding tariffs, this is a funny video. He promised $2,000 checks were coming from tariff refunds, which I suppose can't happen if the tariffs get reversed. That might happen on Wednesday at the Supreme Court. So I don't know what the odds are on it, but the odds were pretty high that they were going to reverse the tariffs and then the country has to pay them back. So here he is being asked about the $2,000 checks.
You promised $2,000 checks to Americans based off of your tariff revenues. When can
I did do that. When did I do that?
Well, I mean, you're
Yeah, I'm thinking. Well, I did 1776 for the military, right?
When will those Americans get those checks?
Well, I am going to. The tariff money is so substantial that's coming in that I'll be able to do 2,000 sometime, I would say toward the end of the year.
You
There you
promised
He
$2,000.
said, he goes, I did? When did I say that? It's like, I gave the 1776. The 1776, which you just like moved from one program to another program, it was money they were going to get anyway. That was a good one. $2,000 tariff checks. I thought we were supposed to get those at the beginning of the year. I'm pretty sure that's what he was saying. We're never going to get those. Well, because tariffs are going to be struck down, I guess. You want to know what the odds are right now? Hold on, let's see. Tariffs. Will Americans receive stimulus checks? Will the Supreme Court, when will the Supreme Court, let's just search it and have everything come up that'll come up. Will Americans receive tariff stimulus checks? Before April is 7% right now. So it doesn't look like it. Will the court order a tariff refund? Is almost at 50%, 45% before 2027. I might bet on that. where is the ones asking what the Supreme Court will do? Oh, that's weird. Tariff. Let me see if I can find what the Supreme Court. There was a bet, at least on Polymarket there is. Now they're just asking when the Supreme Court will issue an opinion. And they are saying, will a court order a tariff refund? Well, if they strike down the tariffs, then the tariffs were illegal. He'll have to give them back. This is what he said about it today. He says, we're screwed, all caps. Says this is a True Social post from today, I believe. The actual numbers that we would have to pay back if for any reason the Supreme Court were to rule against the United States of America on tariffs would be many hundreds of billions of dollars. And that doesn't include the amount of payback that countries and companies would require for the investments they are making on building plants, factories, and equipment for the purpose of being able to avoid the payment of tariffs. When these investments are added, we are talking about trillions of dollars. It would be a complete mess and almost impossible for our country to pay. Anybody who says that it can be quickly and easily done would be making a false, inaccurate, or totally misunderstood answer to this very large and complex question. It may not be possible, but if it were, it would be dollars that would be so large that it would take many years to figure out what number we are talking about and even who, when, and where to pay. Remember, when America shines brightly, the world shines brightly. In other words, if the Supreme Court rules against the United States of America on this national security bonanza, we're screwed. There, it's on Polymarket. 73% chance. You see this right here. 73% chance that the court is going to rule against the tariffs, which are probably illegal because they're taxes on Americans and only the Congress can pass taxes on Americans. He claimed a national emergency to be able to charge tariffs, but they're most likely illegal. And according to the betting odds, they're most likely going to be struck down as illegal by the Supreme Court. And then he says, we're screwed. Like, where'd the money go? Don, what did you do with it? He said we weren't going to have to pay income taxes. We've made a couple $100 billion from tariffs, mostly from American corporations who want the money back. Costco already sued him to get the money back if they reverse their decision. So all these corporations are going to want their money back. The Americans won't get their money back for the extra costs they had to pay. For the most part, they say these corporations haven't passed on the cost of tariffs yet. That's why we didn't get massive inflation like a lot of people claimed, because corporations figured they weren't going to be able to pass along the cost. So a lot of companies have been eating it, basically. A lot of companies have. Car companies haven't raised their prices as much as they should to cover the tariffs. The car companies, for one thing. So for the most part, from what I understand, the corporations have had to eat the price mostly, but they'll get a lot of money back. I'm sure the corporations will be very happy. Regarding tariffs, I said this before. He says he's going to put new tariffs on anyone who does business with Iran, 25%. This order is final and conclusive. So once again, we'll see how long it stands up. The court decision might be as early as Wednesday. So that's the rest of the financial news. Let's do ICE at the end. I'll give you more Trump news today. I'll give you more Trump news first, then we'll get to ICE. Trump is still threatening Greenland, even though Greenland is really pissed and keeps saying they're really pissed, even though every other country in the world is not happy about it. Trump said this kind of amusingly.
Greenland should make the deal because Greenland does not want to see Russia or China take over. They don't go there. It's very far away from Greenland. And Greenland, basically, their defense is 2 dog sleds. Do you know that? You know what their defense is? 2 dog sleds. But Greenland.
Their defense is NATO. It's actually insane. He's like, why would China or Russia take over if they're defended by us? That's why they're in NATO, because we're supposed to defend them from China or Russia. That's why China and Russia aren't going to take Greenland, because of NATO or because of us. We have military bases there. We are supposed to defend Greenland from being taken over from China or Russia. So why would China or Russia militarily invade Greenland? Nobody picks a fight with us. Even if they think they might win, it'd be disastrous for everyone. So what is that logic? It doesn't make sense. Here he is talking more about Greenland, though.
Joint NATO mission. UK and Germany are discussing plans for a joint NATO mission to protect Arctic security in Greenland. Does that change your calculus at all?
No, look, we're talking about acquiring, not leasing, not having it short term. We're talking about acquiring. And if we don't do it, Russia or China will, and that's not going to happen when I'm president.
Are you going to increase the amount of military bases on Greenland in the meantime?
Well, we have bases on Greenland. Yeah.
Are you going to do more?
We put a lot of soldiers there right now if I want, but you need more than that. You need ownership. You really need title, as they say in the real estate business.
He says we really need title, just like in real estate. We need title for Greenland. We need to own it. He hasn't made his convincing case as to why exactly. They already are friends with us. We already have bases there. We're already allowed to invest there if we want. We already have a compliant government. It's not like we're overthrowing the dictator of Greenland. It's really strange, but he keeps going after it. Regarding Venezuela and oil and companies investing in Venezuela, I believe I made the case that the oil companies don't want to invest in Venezuela, particularly ExxonMobil, who said it was uninvestable. I've told you guys the multiple reasons for it, including that their oil is expensive to dig out of the ground, would take decades to recoup costs, and they can't guarantee their own security. They've already lost a bunch of money in Venezuela. There are a myriad of reasons that investing in Venezuela is not something oil companies want to do if they're thinking about themselves, investing billions and billions of dollars. He said 100 billion. So here he is saying Exxon can't participate because they were mean to him during his meeting.
Have any oil companies made commitments to the United States after your meeting on Friday, sir? Have Exxon?
No, I don't want to say. No, I didn't like Exxon's response. We have so many that want it. I'd probably be inclined to keep Exxon out. I didn't like their response. They're playing too cute.
So he says he's going to keep Exxon out. Once again, interfering with businesses, but funny enough. Interesting character, Donald Trump. Okay, finally, they as for how well things are going in Venezuela, we had to issue an advisory, a travel advisory for everyone to leave, all Americans to leave immediately because they're not safe there. So if that's an indication of how things are going. They released this travel advisory. Says there are reports of armed militias known as colectivos setting up roadblocks and searching vehicles for evidence of U.S. citizenship or support for the United States. Remain vigilant and exercise caution when traveling by road. Venezuela has the highest travel advisory level, level 4, do not travel, due to severe risks to Americans, including wrongful detention, torture in detention, terrorism, kidnapping, arbitrary enforcement of local laws, crime, civil unrest, and poor health infrastructure. So it doesn't sound like Venezuela is going that great. Yeah, the militias there don't like America, and they're not going to like the government if the government participates with America. So it's really, we're still feeling good about it. The Maduro raid was great. Apparently, it was like 100 Iron Men going in there. Did you guys hear that already? There's some report that we came with super advanced, like super soldiers with super advanced technology, and that we used sonic weapons on them that made them like bleed from their ears and puke their guts out and stuff. That's what the report is. I don't even know if it's true, but apparently that we came in like basically like in Iron Man suits and just fucked everybody up with like 100 soldiers. We took out hundreds and hundreds of enemy soldiers without one single casualty and stuff. That's what they're saying. Yeah, imagine that says we aren't liked all over the world at this point. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I know he doesn't care apparently about Europe or about any of our allies, doesn't think we need anybody, doesn't think we need NATO, which maybe we don't. But seems like it's good to have friends. Question everything twice says if America keeps going like this, it'll be the same situation as Israelis trying to go on holiday. Yeah, like when you go travel, they'll want to taunt you and kick you out of restaurants because you're American. I could see that too. I see people talking about the football game tonight that's coming up. Yep, I'm pulling for Aaron Rodgers, the anti-vax quarterback, and he's old too, like me. So we're pulling for this deal. And I went to school in Pittsburgh, so we're pulling for them. They're underdogs, I believe. So I see people talking about Aaron Rodgers. He stood up to the vaccines. So we're pulling for him tonight. Old guy, Steelers against the Texans, who have a good defense. All right, so here is the okay. Let's reset a little bit. ICE. Don't know where all you guys come down on it. I welcome differing opinions on it, certainly. Many people, even people who aren't political and some people who are politically right-wing, see some problems with ICE enforcement. There's analysis of the ICE shooting. There's some analysis of the ICE shooting that the officer may have been at fault. He may have feared for his life, but he shouldn't have put himself in that situation based on how the training should have gone for these guys who work for ICE and DHS. We are giving people $50,000 signing bonuses and pulling people off the street to work for ICE, and then we're not training them as long as they normally would be trained, because there was a huge budget for ICE and DHS, Border Patrol. There's a huge budget in the big, beautiful bill. So they had to hire a bunch of people really fast and train them really fast. They're training them for 47 days. They're training for them for 47 days because Trump is 47, is president number 47 this time. And instead of 6 weeks, and apparently they're not training them for how to deal with people. So the officer, while he may have feared for his life, may also have put himself in a situation he wasn't supposed to put himself in by putting himself in front of that vehicle. And then certainly everybody can question whether he really felt like he was in danger. Some people are saying that there's no way that he really felt like he was in danger. So, since we're about to transition, let's see. Beat the House Sport says, hey, dude, I like listening to you. That's why I tuned in. Question, what do you think Cappy was talking about in his last video? And he said he did something very bad. I don't know. Maybe some kind of gold deal. That was my theory. He said, I think or maybe uranium or something. Maybe he thought he was involved in some kind of uranium deal or something with this guy's a Knights Templar, apparently. Isaac, or no, something, Eli priest. I don't know, though. That's just my theory, that he was involved in some kind of shady deal, he thought, even though he probably wasn't. So, I don't know for sure. I think he was kind of psyoped, though. I think people were fucking with him. but I don't know for sure. All right. So anyway, here is the latest from Carolyn Levitt talking about the woman who got killed, who I don't think is a hero or anything. And she definitely wasn't there just some people are repeating the, I don't know if I want to call it lie, but I believe it's misinformation that she was just driving home from dropping off her kid. So she was there protesting. She was there blocking ICE. They were being rude. They were being rude to cops. Some people seem to imply that being rude to cops is a reason to lose your life, which it isn't technically. So for those people, technically you're allowed to be rude to cops without them killing you. So anyway, here is Carolyn Levitt talking smack. So this is the messaging coming out of the White House right now. I'll just play that.
What happened last Wednesday and the officer who was involved in the shooting? Does the president stand fully behind that officer, that agent? Does the president believe his actions were justified?
Absolutely. And I think the more evidence that comes out shows the officer was justified, and President Trump was right about this all along. And who was wrong? The Democrat Party and the mainstream media, who despicably have been lying about this officer and about this case from the very beginning. And they have had to change their story and their narrative. Because at first, you heard Democrats, including the mayor of Minneapolis, saying that the car never struck the officer and the lethal force was unjustified. Now, of course, there is plentiful video evidence to show that the officer was struck by the car, that this deranged lunatic woman was trying to ram him over with her vehicle and was using that vehicle as a weapon, which justifies domestic terrorism. And unfortunately, we are seeing these instances play out in American communities across the country, where you have these organized, paid antagonists who are part of these groups that are actively, unlawfully impeding lawful law enforcement operations. They are harassing and targeting ICE agents, trying to make it impossible, again, for them to carry out their duties. That's what was happening in this case. That officer used his training. I understand that he's been on the force and he's been protecting American communities for many, many years. He's an experienced and brave individual who unfortunately had to make a very tough decision and was put in that position by these paid agitators who have been doing this all over the country.
Caroline.
Right. So they want the, I've criticized this a number of times. So they continue going back to the paid agitator thing where they haven't shown the evidence yet. They say they're looking into it. This person was part of some organized group. The lady was, she was part of some organized group. My criticism of the regime is that they don't know actually if it was justified. That's all. And they came out immediately and said it was. And then they stole the investigation from authorities who wanted to investigate it, being the Minnesota local authorities, and gave it to the FBI. And given the way things are going and the way everybody just does Trump's bidding, if the administration says it was completely justified and doesn't require an investigation, then we're going to assume that the FBI is not going to do an investigation. Basically, that's what I would assume. And once again, I voted for Trump. I vote Republican. I support deporting illegals as long as you have a reason to. She said that this is another problem. And Michael, I highlighted your comment, says absolutely justified as a bold strategy. Yeah, it's just that they keep saying that, but actually it's not up to them to determine if it was justified or not. It would have to be determined by an investigation and maybe a jury. You know what I mean? That's what would determine whether people really believe it was justified. People would have to present evidence. He might have to actually stand trial for it. And then they can determine whether it was justified or not. But it's very divisive language for a lot of people who watch the video and don't think it was justified, including me. Who I think it might be legal. It might be legally justified because police officers legally can say that they were scared for their life and they can legally kill you in many situations. However, there is some there is analysis, including by CBS and other law enforcement officers, who says that he placed himself in jeopardy. It's something called officer created jeopardy by placing himself in front of that car, and that it's not legal to put yourself in harm's way as an excuse to kill somebody, and that you're supposed to get out of the way unless they have some other weapon or some other reason other than a car, before you shoot somebody. So there is a lot of, it's just not clear. That's all. Even if it might have been legal, it might have been, it's definitely not a slam dunk. And for the administration to keep saying that, I think they're just losing people. That's what I think. And it's going to make it very hard, even for, it's making it harder for JD Vance, is what I think. They're losing people, particularly ladies, particularly women. I saw analysis of that. Particularly like white suburban women are not necessarily buying into the administration narrative, which is just going after the most hardcore. It's just going after the most hardcore MAGA base who likes to see people suffer, who hates Democrats, who hates liberals, and just doesn't care if people die, who are on the other side from them. But the other comparison is to Ashley Babbitt. Like, if you think it was wrong that Ashley Babbitt got shot, then it might have been wrong that this lady got shot too. And comparing it to January 6th, which is, they could have just, by these standards, the cops on January 6th could have just started shooting people, and they didn't. And as far as it going against law enforcement, I think law enforcement, cops, are pretty well behaved these days. They're used to being filmed in public. They know how to deal with people. They're trained for how to deal with people. They're not unhinged. They're disciplined, because it seems like they're trained for it and they're used to it. They're like I said, they're used to being filmed in public. I'm going to get to that. It's not interfering to film police officers. She was interfering, but what they were doing wasn't necessarily legal. What they're doing isn't necessarily legal. That's the argument I keep seeing. You're stopping them from doing their legal duties that they were assigned by Congress. You shouldn't protest the police. You should protest Congress because they're enforcing the law. Well, JD Vance said they were going door to door looking for illegals. That's not legal. That's not constitutional. You can't just go door to door and look for people breaking the law. You're supposed to have a warrant. There's supposed to be a process. Then they posted a thing that was like, oh, look at all these terrible people we arrested. But that's not who they arrested this time. And that's not who they were looking for on that street, I don't think. I mean, JD Vance literally said they were going door to door. They're not supposed to go door to door. They're not supposed to just walk up to people who are brown and ask them for their papers. They're not supposed to do that. So what they're doing isn't clearly legal, and they're being caught on camera doing things that appear to be illegal, like attacking people with cameras over and over and over again. I have 3 clips of that. They seem to be doing things that are illegal, or arresting American citizens, or beating up Americans. They've detained so many American citizens. It's not clear what they're doing is legal. And frankly, I'm happy people are following them and filming them, because we should keep an eye on law enforcement. There's nothing wrong with keeping an eye on them and reporting what they're doing. And there's nothing wrong with yelling at them or blowing whistles at them or whatever you want to do. There's nothing legally wrong with it. So they can't just go around threatening people with guns and stuff, which they've been doing too. I don't even have all the clips. There are just so many clips. Them pulling guns on people. You're not supposed to brandish a weapon at people that aren't armed. They're doing that all the time. It's just not clear what they're doing is legal. So to say that you shouldn't protest them or whatever, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I'm not, some of them are crazy and over the top. And like I said, I think getting rid of illegals in general is a good thing, but you got to do it the right way. Otherwise, people are just going to get pissed. That's all.
What happened last?
So anyway, that's what she said about it. She said she's a deranged lunatic, which I think people probably don't like to hear.
Highly disrespectful of law enforcement.
So somebody said they don't see people saying that it was justified because they were rude. Well, that's kind of what Trump is saying in this clip. Because he's being asked about whether they have full immunity, like JD Vance said, and like somebody else said. I think it was Stephen Miller said it also, that they have legal immunity. They have legal immunity if they follow the law, but they don't have full immunity to do whatever they want and break the law. But in any case, he's asked about full immunity, and this is what he says. In response to that comment, I saw that nobody is saying it's justified because they were rude.
That deadly force was necessary after watching all the footage a few days have passed. What's your assessment there?
It was highly disrespectful of law enforcement. The woman and her friend were highly disrespectful of law enforcement. You saw that? They were harassing them, were following for days and for hours. And I think, frankly, they're professional agitators.
But just disrespect.
And I'd like to find out, and we are going to find out who's paying for it, with their brand new signs and all the different things. But these are professional agitators, and law enforcement should not be in a position where they have to put up with this stuff. What that woman and what her friend and what their other friends were doing to law enforcement, not just ICE, law enforcement is outrageous.
There you go. So he was asked if force was necessary. He said they were very disrespectful. Well, being disrespectful, I propose, is not a reason to kill you. I'll show you the videos. Somebody's asking for the videos. I'll show you those. I'll just show you what Tim Dillon said, because I have a feeling some of these comedians who aren't that right wing, the podcast bros who aren't really that right wing and are kind of like humanitarian types, are probably not going to be on board with it. We'll see what Joe Rogan and Theo Vaughn say, but I would predict they might come out on the other side of this. So it's kind of like mainstream public opinion is not with ICE. That's what I'm proposing. It's really like a hardcore base of MAGA supporters who is really hardcore. But it seems like the Trump is probably losing some of his coalition on this one. That's all. And I don't want to see a Democrat be president, really. Not unless they come up with a really good one, which I haven't seen in a long time. The last good Democrats, well, were Tulsi and RFK, and they switched. So here's what Tim Dillon said, just so you can hear somebody's opinion.
I don't believe the cop was justified in shooting her 3 times in the face. By the way, I've always believed this, and this is something that I've caught heat for, but I've literally believed it since I'm a kid. I don't believe you should ever shoot someone in the face more than once. Seriously, I just think it's ridiculous. So that they did that, and these are not well-trained law enforcement people in ICE right now. We are taking people that did backyard wrestling. I mean, we are the people that are in ICE right now this is your cousin who was in backyard wrestling. This is tough. This is not the cream of the crop. You know the guys that kidnapped Maduro, like Delta Force, Navy SEALs? This is not them. This is not the Delta Force, Navy SEAL people. This is people that this is people in their 3rd grade report card the teacher wrote that has violent tendencies. This is not It just is what it is.
Okay, so there you go. That's Tim Dillon. And then I have one more clip from him.
These like ICE raids, which are kind of performative and cruel and a bit psychotic, are not doing this administration any favors. They are, I think they're making people less concerned with immigration enforcement because they're equating all immigration enforcement to these random brutal raids where you see people that have been here 30 years like hogtied and thrown into a van. These like
I haven't
ICE
seen that
raids, which
video
are
yet,
kind of
but I have seen there's video of a kid at a Target, which I showed you, who said he was an American citizen. Apparently he was a U.S. citizen, who got arrested, beat up, and then dropped off a few miles away at a Walmart, apparently injured and bleeding. 17-year-old American citizen. They said that he, the White House claimed today, or the administration claimed today, that he had assaulted police, but you don't see that in the video. He's just down being crushed by police. So that was one of them. I'll show you how the enforcement goes. You said to show you the video. Here's like enforcement, I guess. I haven't seen this video yet, but here they are going door to door at Teslas, asking people for papers. So anyway, that's one of their enforcement activities, just going around to people randomly. Michael Tracy was pointing out that one of the problems they have interacting with the public is that they think people videotaping them is bad. Here's what it says. DHS Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs, Tricia McLaughlin, told the Center for Media and Democracy that, quote, videotaping ICE law enforcement and posting photos and videos of them online is doxing our agents. We will prosecute those who illegally harass ICE agents to the fullest extent of the law. Well, that's not true. Videotaping law enforcement is totally fine and First Amendment protected. So here's somebody getting attacked for videotaping. With video. This is left-wing propaganda. I mean, they even had music. Here's somebody else videotaping who gets attacked. Don't know what he did.
I know.
It has nothing to do with getting rid of illegals. That's all. It seems like they're just going after people now. Like, and they're all raged up and stuff. No discipline. That's what it seems like to me. Here's somebody else with a video camera.
Have y'all not learned from the past couple of days? Have you not learned?
Learned what? What's our lesson here? What do you want us to learn?
Following federal agents.
Give me my phone. Shame on you.
So then he's threatening her, saying, "Oh, haven't you learned that you're gonna get killed for doing that?" So anyway, that's just 3 videos of people filming. I'll show you this because it's a controversial video. People claim it's an ICE agent getting into a porta potty with a female. The people are claiming that it was like that they're sexually abusing people. That's what people on the left are claiming. So I'll show you the video because it's a viral video. Like this one has 6.8 million views, where people say this guy is accompanying a female into a porta potty and they assume he's sexually assaulting her. So there's the person, because the government's responded to this. He slips, falls on his ass, then goes into the porta potty with that. So I'll tell you what the government is claiming about that video. I just want to show it to you because it's viral and people are saying it. I might believe the government because I was like, oh, maybe they have to accompany their detainees into the bathroom. And hopefully it's not a female. They say it was a male and that they have to accompany them to the bathroom, which is maybe plausible. So I've also heard that so far, like 4 detainees have died in custody this year, which is a high number. Don't know why they died. Not saying they got killed by ICE, but apparently 4 people have already died in custody, which would be a lot. Anyway, let me just play you somebody from the Trump administration who's super low IQ and just says something that's insane. Here.
Over 12 million illegal aliens coming across our border has literally strained our housing supply, caused affordability to go up. 100% of rental demand in California and in New York is because of illegal immigration.
100%.
60%.
He said 100% of the demand for housing is from illegal immigrants. How is that possible?
California and in New York is because of illegal immigration. Over 100% of rental demand in California.
100% of rental demand in California and New York is from illegal immigration.
60% of that across our nation.
60% nationwide.
So what we have done here at HUD is to ensure that no taxpayer funds go to illegal aliens when it comes to our FHA mortgage program.
They make up numbers that are so insane. I'm sure it's some. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's driving. I'm sure it's driving up the cost of rentals and stuff, possibly. So, but geez, 100% of housing demand is from illegal immigrants. Well, then there aren't any of us left. So yeah, here's Dan Bilzerian saying he doesn't believe the ICE agent's life was in danger. Well, his life definitely wasn't in danger. But the question is whether he thought it was. So I understand that from a legal standpoint, it's different. His life clearly wasn't in danger because he totally got out of the way. Somebody was asking in the chat if he really got hit by the car. It looked like he kind of got hit a little bit, but he also got out of the way very quickly. And he shot 2 shots from beside the car, it looked like. Now, once they start firing, they keep firing. I get it. 1 shot was from in front of the windshield. The bullet hole was in the windshield. I get it. But he maybe shouldn't have been in front of the car in the first place. Maybe it's not legal for that reason. Maybe he wasn't in fear for his life. Dim Dillon says that he didn't believe that he believed he was in fear for his life. So, anyway, so that's pretty much the news. I gave you that left-wing agitprop, ICE propaganda. I gave you my opinion about it again. And gave you the latest on the financial news too, which I'm glad some people appreciate. That's cool. Yes, a little bit of a smaller show today because we're talking about finance and economics and stuff, but that's okay. We have some people appreciate it. Let me check my coffees. Remember, you can always support the show anytime by going to buymeacoffee.com/lifttheveil. Remember, there's a podcast for the show too. I think I forgot to post it while I was not in my current location, but I'll post it tonight. So there is a podcast that goes out on Apple Podcasts. Just look for Lift the Veil or subscribe to my Substack at lifttheveil.substack.com. It goes out there. So let's see, refresh, coffee, no new coffees today. So we are working for free today. If you want to support my coffee and donut or cookie habit, go to buymeacoffee.com/lifttheveil and leave me some coffees and a note, and I will read your note on the show. All right. And thanks everybody for tuning in. Enjoy the NFL game if you do that kind of thing. And I'll see you tomorrow around the same time, or usually around 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern time. All right. And have a good one. Robbins LA said, can I add the link there? Okay. HTTP. It's in my description. It's always in the description. buymeacoffee.com/lift the veil. There you go. Thanks for that. Appreciate it. Thanks, Rob. Rob's in LA 22. I added the link there. All right, cool. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll see you at the next one. And for now, that's what it is.